Hi, Coach Gary here with the fourth edition of Loaded Language, those special magic words that high control groups use to reshape people's thinking, to implant a certain idea in their head that lasts a lifetime, and to control them. And today we're going to have some fun with it, though, because it's a word that I think is just sort of amusing the way it's been used. It always kind of amused me, even when I was in. I thought it was quite silly the way it was used and illogical. And the word is
Timely.
First of all, we want to give you the Merriam-Webster dictionary definition of timely.
On, coming early or at the right time. A timely decision. Timely payment. 2. Appropriate or adapted to the times or the occasion. A timely book.
So where does it come from, the fact that Jehovah's Witnesses interpret the word timely somewhat differently and more expansively in an exaggerated way? It goes back to one verse in the Bible. I'm going to just read half of this verse. I promise you I'm not going to read any more from the Bible, and I'm certainly not going to try to interpret it for you. But in defining the faithful and discreet slave, Jesus said to give them their food at the proper time. So what is the proper time? What does that mean? Well, let's just assume that it does that whole part of the Bible does have to do with the last days, and the therefore the interpretation of that has to do with distributing knowledge at that time. Well, then the proper time would be at that time. Doesn't mean the information is any different. It just means that it's time to distribute it widely. So it's not like people in centuries past didn't need it. It's just that and people now need it more. It's just that it's time for this. But as we already hinted at, the Jehovah's Witnesses use it for everything, and everything that has to do with a magazine, a book, a convention, or anything that's a provision from the governing body, from Jehovah himself.
Timely. Timely.
Timely.
So, how many times have you heard someone say, "Did you read the new Watchtower? Wasn't it a timely magazine?" And they'll say that this had great application to them. It came in just on time. Same thing with conventions, special talks, just about anything, right? So the reason I always thought that was silly, actually, it's beyond silly. It's ridiculous.
Ridiculous. You got it.
Because it's really a superstitious way of thinking, isn't it? When you think about it, I mean, a magazine is printed for distribution worldwide to every country in every language available. And it's something like 9 million Jehovah's Witnesses, I guess, are going to supposedly read it, plus who knows how many other people, how many millions of people might read it. And an individual is going to read an article that was written by some human beings somewhere in Warwick, New York, or wherever, and they're going to think that this article was written for me, that I needed this right at that time. Well, of course, it happens to everybody all the time when, let's say, you have a certain medical condition and you're really concerned about it, and you go and do some research online. You Google it, you look at medical websites, and you find some very pertinent information. It's just at the right time. It wasn't the information wasn't printed just at that time, created it just at that time for us. But it's good that we found it. We're really happy to have found it. So it was timely in that sense, right? So for an organization that prides itself on presenting things in a logical way, in a practical way, for having good, well-researched information, there's an awful lot of superstition going on when you really think about it. And these are the same people that would, of course, completely condemn anything like astrology. I'm not going to comment on astrology because I have a personal opinion about it. And I don't want to insult anybody because people have different beliefs. But as you know, the Jehovah's Witnesses would condemn it because they feel it would be steeped in demonism. And really, when they criticize astrology and horoscope reading, they'll say things which are, maybe even true, but they'll say things about how, well, they're written in such a general way. Like if you read your daily horoscope, it's written in such a way that it could be true with anybody at any particular time. Isn't the same thing true of the various publications and talks and things like that? They're meant for everybody, and they're written in a fairly general way that's not addressed to Doris Smith in Cleveland, Ohio. And so, how is it that one of the defenses or one of the objections to horoscopes and astrology is how general it is and how it always applies, and how can you be taken in by this stuff? That it's the same thing applies to magazines that are written for the entire world. How is it possible that it's timely for anybody? Really just a selling point for the various provisions of that organization, that these things are so valuable, they're so timely, and that gives it some sort of a mystical quality. And this proves that we're God's organization, that these are instruments of God's organization, that Jehovah provided these magazines. So they're not inspired like the Bible is, but Jehovah provided them, and look how timely they are. They magically came to you just at the right time.
And now, Loyola reads a timely magazine.
If your spouse is jealous. Paul has always been a jealous husband. 15 years of it. Do not hastily dismiss your spouse's feelings. Instead, try to help him or her determine the cause. The Bible tells a husband to deal with his wife in an understanding way. Of course, the same applies to a wife. Oh, this magazine was made for me. Oh, thank you, awake, governing body, Jehovah. Thank you for this timely magazine.
Loyola reads her horoscope.
Battle insecurities. By reciting positive mantras and surrounding yourself with supportive friendships. Dearest Sagittarius, as the Capricorn moon aligns with Saturn and Chiron this morning. I think Paul's insecurities and jealousy are making me feel insecure. Thank you, horoscope. I think I've got it figured out.
Now for an interview with Zelda Montreux on her thoughts about timely magazines.
Well, I read the magazines, The Watchtower, and Awake.
Ah, and since when?
Ever since Da Vinci was queen.
I'm sorry?
Do as you told, my mum always said. Well, mentally, 16.
Mentally?
Well, we can hear it. We can freeze it. Do pull-ups.
You enjoy that?
No, I hate it.
What do you like about the magazines?
Well, they're timely.
What do you mean by timely?
Well, of course. Well, they're just timely.
Give us an example.
Actually, right now I have 6 kids, and one's name is Eric. That's his name.
Well, how nice.
I got it from reading The Watchtower.
Thank you, Zelda. And now for a reenactment of an actual conversation between two individuals who preferred to remain anonymous.
But whose real names are Phil Ungulate, 1313 Carolina Road, Modesto, California, and Lawrence Feedbag, 87 Boondoggle Way, Califon, New Jersey.
Hey, Barney, that sure was a timely talk today, wasn't it?
How so?
It was just what I needed. I've been thinking, how am I going to put tires on my car without coming off the Pioneer list? Then Brother Gasbag related that great experience about the pioneer who had no money for food, with no money coming in.
How does that relate to your tire problem?
It taught me to rely on Jehovah more.
Oh. So that means it was timely?
Of course. It was just what I needed at the right time.
How long have you needed new tires?
Oh man, for months. I nearly went off the road in that rain last month. My tires are so bald.
Sounds like you needed a solution last month, before the rainstorm.
Guess it wasn't Jehovah's time yet.
Do you think the talk was timely for anyone else?
Huh? What do you mean?
It was timely for you. Was it timely for anyone else?
Sure. It was a timely talk.
Who was it timely for?
I don't know. Maybe Sister Skunky. She's been having lots of trouble paying her medical bills.
She wasn't here for the talk.
You sure?
Yeah. She died yesterday. Needed medical treatment she couldn't afford.
Too bad. Guess we'll have to wait for the next service meeting to hear the official announcement.
So anybody else? Anybody else the talk was timely for?
Jehovah's provisions are always timely for all of us.
Always.
Yep, always.
So that means nobody ever has to wait for anything. Everybody always gets the perfect information for everything, just at the right time.
I never thought about it that way. But yeah, I guess so.
I'm gonna do some research on how to fix a water heater later today. Mine's on the fritz. Guess that'll be timely information too, huh?
Well, I think it's only if Jehovah provides the information, like through the magazines and other publications, the meetings, conventions, shepherding calls.
So timely only applies within the organization. How did it end up in the dictionary before the 19th century? The word only applies within the organization, so before the organization, I guess it wasn't a word. How did it end up in the dictionary?
To recap, the word timely is a real word. However, it is very routinely misused and exaggerated to create an aura of certain provisions coming directly from God Himself, even though it's not inspired. So if you're ever triggered by the word timely, because you'll never hear it used the way we commonly heard it used for all the time we were in, don't worry about it. Maybe just have a laugh about it. That's all for now.